Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Anand. I'm a consultant psychiatrist working in the NHS in Yorkshire over the last 23 years. Welcome everyone to this interesting 1 hour session to talk about options for students and give you some information. To tell a bit about us, we started doing career events about 5 years ago, and then gradually have been helping students with their with the mainly with the interviews and helping them to do their application to the medical school. The reason we started this was that even though I'm a doctor, but still I found it difficult to really understand the process of applying to a medical school in UK. It's not as straightforward as there are numerous ways and then so much choices to opt for. We have been doing it informally over the last 5 years, and from this year we have been doing our training, seminars, and workshops in a much more formal way. Today we are going to talk about the various options if, touch wood, um, all students in our groups and everywhere should be able to get through their choices. If things don't happen according to what you had planned, don't worry, there are always plan B options which we are going to discuss today. Few of the students who have been successful in implementing some of the options are going to come and talk to us, and we also have very dedicated parents who have volunteered to their time to come and speak about their experience. So we also have other things going on in the next few months. Next week, we are doing a 1 hour session on personal statements, as many of you would be almost ready with your statements and apply on your UCAS application form. Our MMI interview will be starting in the next few months until January. So with this, I welcome you all, and let me introduce our first speaker, Abhishek Subramaniam, who is a medical student, and many of you might have known him. He is very popular among our team. He has coached many people successfully, and continues to do so. Today is going to give you a brief overview of what to do. Over to you, Abhi.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to take the opportunity to thank you all for being here today. I'm here today as someone going into 4th year of medical school in the University of Plymouth. So as Ella Uncle kindly said, my name is Abby, and I remember the palpable nervousness that many of you are maybe experiencing during results week. The looming what if question. What if you don't get in this year? This time made me understand the importance of having a plan B. The uncertainty of the moment encouraged me to consider alternatives, to think about the road less traveled. Stepping into medical school made me realize that not everyone's journey is straightforward. Numerous individuals don't make it the first time. They take gap years, they do transfers, or they do other relevant degrees, known as graduate entry medicine. I've learnt the route is inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. This highlights everyone's path is unique and personal to them, which adds flavour to the pursuit of the end goal. I've had the privilege of mentoring around 50 candidates for personal statements and interviews. This experience has taught me labels like gap year students or straight A-level students fades into significance against one's desire to succeed in their journey. Medicine, as I humbly understand as a student and upon reflection, is a marathon of learning and dedication and unwavering commitment. It's not about your way of entry, but your unyielding passion. Your path is respectively yours, so make sure you own it. Whatever your journey is, I encourage you to embrace it. Cherish the hurdles and celebrate the achievements. Always keep your gas pedal on. Your journey is testament to your resilience and passion. I'm confident you all will shine brightly regardless of your route. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhi. Next, we move on to Kirtana. Kirtana is from London. She is currently a medical student studying in Bulgaria. She is very helpful in a way that she wanted to come and share experience of how she applied uh, whilst from London, and then take you through to your journey of uh, personally why she chose Bulgaria, uh, and also the practical tips and how often she comes back home to see her parents and other things. So over to you, Kirtana.
Hello, everyone. My name's Keertana, and I'm going into third year in Sofia Medical University in Bulgaria. And I'd like to talk a bit about how I applied to go to Bulgaria and my experience living there so far. So using an agency is a best option to go to Bulgaria. Because the application process, it's quite long, maybe a bit tedious. So the agency helps out with the different steps required to take. For example, lots of documents are required, like which need to be translated into Bulgarian and maybe even legalized and notarized so we know they're real documents. And the agency will help out with these things. There's also an entrance exam that is required to be taken. Usually there's two options, two dates to sit the entrance exam, and it depends on which university you're applying to. So in Bulgaria, there's around 6 universities. The main one, Sofia, is in the capital. And then there's also Pleven University, which actually has its start date in February instead of October, like how the other normal universities would have that date. Pleven, Plovdiv, there's also Varna, which is on the opposite side near the beach, near the Black Sea. And there's also Trachea University. So there's multiple options in Bulgaria. So the entrance exam for Sofia is generally at the beginning of October, and the agency will provide preparation materials. So you can revise from those and go ahead for the exam, which is usually at the campus of the university. So you'll have to fly to Bulgaria to take the exam. So in Sofia in general, for me, I found it's quite safe, and depending on which area you go to, of course, which you can say generally for anywhere we go. However, it's quite student friendly as well. There's many like local grocery shops and anything you need. It's a good hub for any activities really. And I'll talk a bit about the course. So the course is an MD degree course, and it's 6 years. So the first 3 years are theory based, and so preclinical, and then the next 3 are clinical years. The last year, our 6th year, is an internship year, which can be counted as F1 in the UK. However, it's I'd say it's best to do F1 properly in your home country, just to get more experience, I think. So the fees is around 8,000 euros per year, and we pay that twice at the beginning of each semester. So it'd be €4,000 one semester, 4,000 again. And I'd say general living expenses in Bulgaria is around £15,000. So this could include rent, normal shopping, and anything else really. And travel to Bulgaria is around 3 hours on the flight, and it's not that hard to come and go. And usually we get breaks between each semester. So around December, January time, and for Christmas, and then February, because that's when the first semester ends, and then the second semester will start around the beginning of March. And we get our summer holiday break as well. Yes, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirtana. Of course, there will be time at the end for any specific questions, which you can either post it in this Zoom meeting chat box, or if you're part of our wider WhatsApp group, you can even post your query there. And if you have time, we will try to answer all these queries. I'm aware it's a start of the week on a Monday, and you all might be tired, so we wanted to finish on time as well. A bit of a disclaimer: we are trying to give you information on our best ability. However, we strongly recommend you to do your own research before you decide. Thank you. Next, I'm going to thank you very much, Anita. I'm sure there are a few questions which we'll try to answer at the end.
Sure.
We will also post the recording of the meeting today on our YouTube channel. If you want to look at our past recordings, you can go to our website www.educatetheworld.co.uk, where you can find seminars and workshops which we have done in the past. Our next speaker is Nish. Nishant is a student who is going to go to University of Kiel. So he took 1 year gap year, and he's going to share his experience of what he did during those 12 months, and how he successfully managed to get back into a medical uni. So over to you, Nish.
Hello, everyone. As Dr. Anand just introduced, my name is Nish, and I just wanted to talk about gap year as it is, because I was in a similar situation last year, a few days before my results day, not knowing, a bit scared of the prospect of going into a gap year. So I just wanted to, make sure that students and parents are reassured that it's a time of reflection, time of improvement as well. So as after I had my results day, I was a bit scared and a bit uncertain that I was going into a gap year, and of course doing the UCAT again, and I also did the BMAT as well. That put a little bit of extra pressure on me as well. But I think after I had crossed that barrier of doing the aptitude tests again, I took time to reflect what I was unsuccessful at the previous year. So regarding my interviews, for example, as I've written here, taking a more goal-oriented approach, I took more ownership for all the mistakes that I've done and all the decisions that I'm making as well. But I think what mainly I did differently was my time management. Because when you're in your A-level studies and you're getting interviews, it's really hard to manage your time. It's hard to form a plan. But after, when I'm in my gap year, I had the luxury of not having to do studies, so I was more focused in my interviews and other things that I will explain as well. Gap Being in a gap year is, I think, a time of experimenting. It's a bit of character building as well. And I did this by doing various work experience opportunities, especially in Bradford Royal Infirmary for 1 week, going around the different specialities, learning all the the key values that you must have heard in your interviews, like teamwork, empathy, communication. So just further building my application. I think that's a key thing when going into gap year. Although you have a year out, it's still important to build your application, do more work experience, and volunteering in a care home, as I did as well. Those are key experiences that you can talk about in your interviews. You can elaborate more, and it just builds, as I said, builds your application. Um, During the interview time, where normally the interviews do come in, I wanted to build my application and build, what I wanted to say in my interview by working in a tutoring center. So I was a tutor, teaching maths and English to younger students, and that further built, the skills that I said before, made me um, prioritize different tasks, work in pressurized situations, and learn, the importance of the key values of integrity, reliability that you must have heard of as well. But I think one thing that I did differently in terms of my experiences were helping in my local community. I didn't have the opportunity during my school years to really dive into the community work. So helping out in my local church, supporting a community cafe where I was serving and helping people in the community with food and talking to them. That further built up confidence and made me make sure that I was understanding the value of community spirit. In terms of the interview, as you can read on my slide that I took, uh, I learned the importance of teamwork. I learned the importance of communication skills, and I was able to further say this in my interview. And I think one of the key people that did help me get into Keele Medical School was Abhishek, who was talking at the start. He Meeting him, meeting new people, and also the support of my family played a really big part in getting a medical seat. So I just want to thank Dr. Eliel for giving me this opportunity to speak to you all. I just wanted to reassure parents that it is, and students as well, that it can be daunting because it's a year out and you might see your friends in university and you're at home. But I think having that mindset of wanting to improve, wanting to stay motivated and do medicine, and taking it step by step is key. So yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nish. That will be quite helpful for people who might feel, end of the world if they can't get it in the first time. Either you had difficulties in your A-level exams or UCAT or in your interviews. Thank you very much. Nish will be available until the end if you have any particular questions. We just swiftly move on to our penultimate speaker, Dr. Sanjay Rajpal. Generally, there is a saying, say, to people who are happy are those who feel grateful and then want to give back to the community. Sanjay is a very busy practicing doctor, a surgeon working in the NHS, and he wants to, as a parent, he is going to talk about the amount of research he has done for studying in Europe. Please note that we do not advocate any. We are not an agency, or we don't advise. We don't do that. It's just part of the information sharing we have organized this event today. Over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you, Yelil and team, and a very good evening to all the parents and students there. Just following on my son's talk, I'd just like to add a little bit more perspective to what was happening in that gap year. So Nish did well in his A-level grades, but his UCAT scores were on the lowest side, and with all the COVID fiasco and stuff, it was quite tricky for him to get in after his A-levels. So in addition to preparing for his UCAT, BMAT, we also started looking at Plan B. So fortunately, Plan B did not have to take place because he was successful in getting in Kiel, but we started preparing. So I'm just going to share some of the work which we did. So, when you start exploring what are the options outside the UK, you suddenly stumble upon a whole world of friends of friends of friends who have either a child or or someone who's studying in Europe. So it actually opens the world for us. What was quite helpful was my wife, who's also a medic. One of her trainees whom she was mentoring had studied in Prague. So she was super impressed with this junior doctor whom she was mentoring to get into obs and gynae. And then while we had Nish charting his journey towards getting into medicine in UK, we were hearing what options were available in Europe. So that's how our foray into medicine outside UK started. So just next slide, please. So when we look at it broadly, what are the considerations, for picking up a medical school or a country to put your child is, we thought the mode of instructions. Most of these degrees are English taught, but you have to be mindful that after you finish the basic science, when you attend the clinicals, you will have to interact with real patients who not everybody will be English speaking. So all of these courses in Bulgaria, in Czech Republic, you will need to learn their language, which forms a part of the curriculum for the first couple of years. Then the European degree and most other foreign degrees, they have a traditional form of curriculum, which includes, as outlined earlier, a couple of years of basic science followed by clinical. And usually the degrees run for a 6-year duration, and you come out with an MD. The most important thing from our point of view as parents was also to see what was the route to integration in the UK. So presuming the children do want to come back and work in the NHS, being close to their families. So for this reason, the universities which were, towards just outside the European Union were thought to be less favorable from our perspective as parents, because it's easier to get GMC registration, although there is something called a UK MLE coming up in the next few years. The next consideration was, what is the annual fees for each of these courses? And that might play a big role, because when children go to the university here, you do get student loans, but when you're sending them abroad, majority of this you have to pay for. So that's important from a financial perspective. And also the university you pick up, the cost of living expenses would come. For example, in Czech Republic, if you're in Prague, your cost of renting an accommodation, travel, etc., would be at least 25 to 30% higher than a city just outside Prague. So that's something to bear in mind. The social aspects which I see are, do they have a cohort of students from the UK whom they can work with, they can live with, and they're well supported? The other aspect is, is there a direct flight to get home, and things like that. So those were the considerations we had, and while we started exploring, and I'm sure there'll be many other points which I have not added on. So next slide. So Priya, next slide, please. Thank you. So just go back. So we looked at, I'm just going to start from the bottom of the list. So we consider many options, but I'm just going to say broadly the the countries which we explored. So the Republic of Ireland was something which was surprising, which we never considered about, but somebody brought to our notice. So the advantage of taking up a medical degree in Republic of Ireland is basically it's still considered to be a part of the UK. GMC approve the degrees, and if you complete a house job there, you don't need to repeat FY1 and FY2. So, and it's English taught, so children don't need to learn any other language. So those are the positives. The further positive is you would be considered as an EU candidate paying 6,000 euros. The cons are it's not easy to get in. They have an aptitude test similar to the UCAT, which is much more difficult. Nish did prepare and apply, but when we looked at it even further, when they stack up all these results and the scores, the odds of getting in are very, very small. So, it's open. People can just look up on their website, read up their entry criteria, and make their own choices. But that was a very, very lucrative option, but highly, highly competitive and very difficult to get in. So, going further up, Croatia, because I have a work colleague who's from Croatia, and those universities were advertised, so I managed to speak to them. It's again a traditional curriculum. They have a lot of people there speak English, so it's quite easy for our children to be there, live there, and it's pretty safe from what I heard. Again, as you reach the clinical years, you need to learn the local language, but it sounds to be pretty much similar curriculum and well accredited schools. So there are a couple of schools in Croatia. Bulgaria you heard about, and I'm sure you will hear from the speaker after me, whose child is studying in Bulgaria, giving you a little bit more detail. Slovakia, it's not very far from Czech Republic, so it was one of the schools we looked at. They are also English speaking, a lot more English speaking than you imagine. The school has got good reputation. The reason why we were not so pushed to go there is we did not have any contacts who are actually studying there. The fees are actually much more competitive than the other places. We then explored Italy, where they have quite a few private universities. So when you look at the Italian universities, there's a lot of English-speaking courses available, but you're pretty much specifically looking for the private medical schools. The Italian medical schools will also allow English. They have English, even the standard, the state schools who are not advertised as private, they also have places for foreign graduates. The problem is their exams, the aptitude test are very late on, closer to October, and it's not very clear what are the odds of getting in. But if you get in the public school in the standard recruitment, like we have a national UCAS selection here, then the fees are also quite low. But I suspect the odds are very difficult. So your private medical schools are the best bet. There are a couple in Rome and in Milan, and the curriculum seems to be quite good. It is highly popular with Indian origin children from the Middle East, particularly the Gulf, and so that's something to look at. Cyprus was another place we looked at in Nicosia, because we had a friend who's from Cyprus who had been working with my wife, and she'd relocated. So we got some good input. So the schools are very, very good. They have been newly built, but I think there was a question mark about the clinical experience. Often the Cypriots, they go into mainland Greece to get clinical experience. So that was something which was off-putting, along with the high fees. So we explored Czech Republic quite a bit, and in reality, we took 2 trips out there. One as a part of a half-term break initially to see the country, and we were lucky to have one of our friends' child. She was doing her final year dentistry there, so she took us around. This was not in Prague. This was in Palaki, which is outside Prague, 3 hours train travel. So she showed us around, and being there physically reassured us that it's a very safe country. A lot of people speak English, and it'll be easy for them. Then when we decided we might be going for further, we took another trip, and we actually went to each of those universities where we thought we'd be applying and taking up. So as mentioned earlier, each of these universities have some form of entrance exams, and a lot of them would include mathematics, chemistry, biology, and physics. So our children take 3 subjects. So there can be an element of anxiety for a child who's not been doing physics since GCSE, or a child who's not been doing maths since GCSE. So they give you the curriculum, and often it's at the GCSE level, but you do get support from the agencies or children before them whom you'd be meeting or you'll be getting contacts with. I also recommend all the prospective parents to actually go into each of these university websites. They have an English website as well with links on curriculum. Just don't rely on the agencies. Do your own homework. And if you email them, they're quite proactive in getting back to you. Some of the universities have also set up chat groups with student ambassadors, which is similar to the one we see in UK. So you can, your child can join those chat groups, speak to the children, and you'll often find there's a lot of children who are Asian heritage from Middle East and from UK there. So they would know, they would be in your shoes, and they'll be able to guide you about what to do. So my final slide, I'm just going to share with you, the various agencies. So we were looking actively at Czech Republic, and we used Medical Doorway to help us. So they are quite familiar with the application process, and a lot of these documents have to be translated, legalized, etc. So they facilitate all of that. So you just need to, while you're planning to understand the process, use their website. There's a lot of free information, YouTube videos, and that will give you a perspective. So good luck to all the children and the prospective parents. I just finished my presentation with this. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay Rajpal, for the whistle-stop tour of studying in Europe. I'm sure it will be comforting for students and parents who are doing the same, researching about Plan B, and feel that someone else had also done it, and then someone is willing to give a overview. Thank you very much. We now next go on to our final speaker, Dr. Shri. Dr. Shri is a pediatrician working in the NHS, and she's going to again share her views as a parent of how things, how did she go about looking into research for studying in Europe, where her daughter is currently studying. Over to you, Dr. Shri.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I know how anxious this time is for everybody at the moment, but don't worry. Good luck to everyone. But if always better to have Plan B. As I remember last year, my daughter was, had an offer from Kiel University, did everything well and was very hopeful. And then she dropped a grade, and then, she missed out an opportunity. So until then, we were thinking of maybe Europe, maybe gap year. To be honest, we didn't have a clear Plan B. So when it came as a shock, it was really whirled as if, for her, it was like, my goodness, she couldn't believe it. But then, you have to take, you have to swallow that, and you have to plan what next and all. Reflecting on that experience, I would say that if I'm sure most of you will get through, no problems, but if you don't, it's not the end of the world. And then we can now look back at that experience and think, okay, maybe it's, in a way, it's good that it has happened, because now my daughter is studying and finished her first year medicine in Bulgaria, Varna University, and she's quite happy. And as parents, as a parent, I'm quite happy. And so far, we don't have any complaints about it. So you do have other options. First, if you choose to study in Europe, you decide. You have to be prepared for it. It's not your parent because your parents have said or somebody else have said. You have to make up your mind. So you do your research in the next 2 days. Go on to different websites and then find out what they feel like, and there's loads of information. Like, for example, Dr. Sanjay showed you Study Medicine Europe, and there are loads of agencies. Someone asked the question about how much do the agencies charge. They charge around 2,000, some charge £1,500, some charge 2,000, including flight tickets. When you get in, they drop you there. And then you have to sort out your own accommodation. There's also an agency which looks out for students and, sort out the accommodations as well. So it all depends on different agencies, but more or less all the agencies pretty much the same. You have to give an entrance exam, which is not very difficult because the standard of UK A levels is much higher compared to even US standard. As I have nephews and nieces studying in US, you have studied a much higher curriculum, chemistry wise, whatever subjects you have taken. Yours is they studied that at university standard, so you can get through these entrance exams quite easily, at least so far, at least till last year. I've heard some rumors that they are making it difficult because they are getting competitive this year. I don't know about it, but still, even if it gets difficult, it will be not so difficult for you comparing to your A-level exams or, entrance exams. That's number one. And I looked at Prague or Sofia and Plovdiv. Plovdiv is quite popular in Bulgaria, but Prague, it was very popular. Now someone mentioned, I'm just saying what my experience has been. Someone mentioned that there are few students who didn't pass or something like that, like, they got stuck and all. So then someone suggested us not to go to Prague. And then we looked at Bulgaria. Bulgaria seems to be most popular at this point of time. It used to be Romania and a lot of other countries, but now Bulgaria seems to be popular with UK students. And I looked at Plovdiv, was my first choice because a lot of students said very good things about that, and it's filled with UK students. But the problem was the commute. You have to go to Sofia and then 6-hour drive from Sofia. So we thought it's practically a little difficult. And Bulgaria, and then Sofia. Kirtana is studying in Sofia. Sofia is also a good university. It's like London, I've heard, like quite big, and the classes are spread out all over Sofia. And then I chose Varna because we also knew somebody who were already studying, who's also medical people. Their children were studying, and I found out so many kids are already studying there in Varna. So I spoke to them, and they all said that it's a small place, everything is walkable distance, and it's a beachside city, quite popular for Europeans to go as a summer getaway. And Varna University is 150-year-old well-established university and teaches in English. They do have to learn Bulgarian, which my daughter has cracked it in no time. She said it's quite easy. There is nothing to worry about. It's apparently closer to Russian, but she can communicate in the shops in Bulgarian. They do speak broken English, but they do respect students because they feel that they've come all the way to study in our city. So they do look after the children, and the population, I mean, people are very nice and friendly to students over there. Then what else? So it's a very well established university. I did not have time to go and look at the university beforehand, but when I went there to join my daughter, I felt quite happy. It appeared much more, I'm from India, so it looked more like a medical university, well-established medical university in India with nice academic department and all. So I felt quite impressed. And I didn't get that feel in most of the UK medical schools that I have visited. They were all like just a couple of floors and that's it. Whereas this looked a bit more professional to me. And they do have dissection. And their curriculum is mostly theory based, just like as in India or Oxford, Cambridge, lecture based, first 3 years. And then it goes to clinicals. And they are quite robust. My daughter finished first year, and the theory part that they study is really good. I didn't study it even in India, and I felt quite impressed, like how much even biomechanics, biophysics they are taught. So that's quite positive experience. Agency makes your life easy but it is expensive. There are students who I know have done it on their own without worrying about going through agencies to save money for their parents. But it is quite hard because you need the documentations authorized and translated, all that. Agencies can help out all that. If you're confused and distressed already, it's better to give money to the agency and get it sorted. But if you can't, you can still do it, though it's a bit tricky. And if you know somebody over there, it might become easier a bit more. Coming to the degrees being recognized, they are very well recognized. In fact, all my colleagues are saying that they're seeing much more influx of Bulgarian doctors. And I'm aware of a lot of Bulgarian students who have come to UK, come back to UK. They were UK school students who went to Bulgaria to study medicine, come back and happily secured foundation year places. And apparently I do hear while we talk about it that they do have a very good work ethics and work attitude and knowledge. So that just kind of makes me feel happy. And lots of German students are there, and lots of Indian students who come from India, and lots of UK students are there. It's filled with the UK students. So they are familiar with your A-levels and all that. And they do coordinate holidays, Christmas holidays, then Easter holidays. And, you know, my daughter could come every couple of months, once every couple of months. She could have come more, but she chose not to. And there are flights operating from Luton Airport almost every day. Whereas from Liverpool, it's to Varna is twice a week, and it's just 3.5 hours. In my experience, it's been easier than going to London. So we didn't have any problems going to Varna at all. Recognition wise, from the next year onwards, PLAB will be scrapped, I heard, and then every student who will graduate will have to do UK MLA, whether you study in UK or abroad. So it's not going to make much difference. So all medical students will have to write MLA and pass, and then only get the GMC accreditation. So it's going to be the same, universal for everybody. What else? Yeah, weather is good. It's beach and everything seems fine. So far, so good. Yeah, positive experience, I would say. Any more questions? Or and they do understand our A-levels. So they do regard even B is high for them, because they know that you go through a stronger curriculum than them. So even your B is regarded as high for them. So if you drop a grade, don't worry, it's still, you know, they respect you. They take you with respect because they respect UK curriculum and A-levels much higher.
What about fees, expenses?
Fees. My daughter has taken a private. They don't have university accommodation. All students take private accommodations. To be honest, in the last 1.5 years since Ukraine war, with influx of Ukraine asylum seekers and all over Europe, the cost of living has gone quite considerably high. I have noticed. My daughter went in October. I went to drop her in October. And then again, I went in June. There's a significant change.
Plan B.
Sorry? Yeah, the significant change. A flat with 2-bedroom flat comes up to, like, decent one can be 800 to 1,400 levs, which is almost translates at 2 levs equal to £1. So 50%, like I would say, like £800, 2-bedroom flat. So each can be £400 per month, plus food and all that. And tuition fee is similar, as Keertana said, like per year it's around 8,000 to 9,000. There is a chance that it may go up this year because of the demand.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Shri. Thanks for your, you have covered many questions and FAQs, and I'm sure it will be reassuring to the parents. We will post the recording in the group. And if you have...
Just ask one question, sorry, possible?
So please post your any queries in the chat box, and we'll try to answer. we wanted to finish on time, and so we'll come back to the question in a bit. Before we finish off, can I ask Priya to come and thank the speakers, and then we'll have a few minutes of question and answer time at the end. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. Hi, everyone. My name is Priya. I am the admin for Educate the World. Many of you know my face. I have been in contact with a lot of you for previous events that we have run. I want to thank all the speakers today, Abhi, Nish, Anita, Keetana, Sanjay, Uncle, and Shriyati, for taking the time out of their busy schedule to talk in today's seminar. I hope you all found this session very useful and very helpful. And we will post the recording on our website, www.educatetheworld.co.uk. Thanks again for joining today's session, and I hope you all have a nice evening.